Hello and welcome to this edition of Phi TV. I'm your host, Brad Swanson. We are coming to you more than a few blocks from the Florida Capitol. We're here at the Goodwood Museum and Gardens. We're here with Bob McClure of the James Madison Institute and Byron York of the Washington Examiner. Thanks for coming on Phi TV.
Thanks for having me.
Well, really, we're kind of eavesdropping, or we're sneaking into your event. Bob, tell us a little bit about the Soiree. This is a new format for you. What are we doing here tonight?
You know, it is, Brad. Thanks for having us. You know, it had been 2 years really because of COVID that we weren't able to do our annual dinner, and so we thought this was a perfect year to try some new things, and so we've moved it to an indoor-outdoor event. It's a little more casual. I'm not in a tie, obviously you guys are, but you'll have all kinds of folks here in different attire. We just wanted to kind of loosen things up given the kind of what we've been dealing with COVID.
Well, you think about the policy that your organization is always engaged in, not as lobbyists, as you know, as advocates for great policy. You know, it is very heady stuff, so to kind of break it down and bring people together in a casual environment, it's got to be such a new feel.
Yeah, we're really excited, and not only do we have Byron, who's going to be terrific tonight, Lieutenant Governor's going to be here, Congressman Neil Dunn's going to be here, so it's going to be a really, really great evening.
Always a great event, a must attend for sure during session. Byron, let's turn it to you. You are on Fox News. We see you all the time. You're with the Washington Examiner. Give our viewers just a little taste of your background and how'd you get from there to where you are today?
Well, it was kind of a long, circuitous path. I went to the University of Alabama, and then I was going to be...
All right, we're going to say it.
There I
Roll
did.
Tide for
Thank you
those
very much.
that are there, yes.
Thank you. I was going to be a history professor. I went to the University of Chicago for graduate school, and I became what's known as an ABD, all but dissertation, which means that somehow you just kind of stop,
right,
and you don't do it. So what do? And I ended up getting a job at CNN, which was brand new in television. I liked journalism. I was in television for several years and then started writing. So what happened was I started up behind the camera, but I had to get out of television to get in front of the camera. And so later on, I started appearing on some news programs, and I think it was in 2006 I became a Fox News contributor.
Excellent. What an exciting journey, and now you are a thought leader, and people look to you for your opinions all across the conservative
we'll
spectrum.
Accept that as fact.
We can argue.
We'll
I can
stipulate to
editorialize.
that,
It's our show. It's all of ours collectively. All right, Bob, let's go back to you. Tell our viewers a little bit, for those that aren't familiar with JMI, what's the mission and goals of JMI?
The James Madison Institute focuses on good, strong public policy, and it affects the lives of everyday Floridians. And really, we seek to kind of advance the principles of free markets, free enterprise, limiting the role of government in our daily lives, protecting private philanthropy and private property, so that we can advance and have as much human flourishing as possible. We really believe in the American dream and everybody's ability to choose their version of that dream. And the way you do that is to protect and promote free markets.
I tell you what, I get goosebumps as a former Florida Chamber of Commerce guy, a free market fanatic. Right. I love the work that you do. It's amazing. Thanks for sharing that with our viewers. Byron, let's go back to you. Florida policies, you know, typically when a governor comes in or the legislature, they kind of live here in the state, but are you seeing any of our policies kind of transcending the borders of our state and catching on nationally?
Not just that, but a larger approach to, let's just call it freedom or the lack of regulation. I think you're seeing a lot of that come from Florida. What's interesting now, living in Washington, which is supposed to be the center of things, as certainly among Republicans and conservatives, you get this feeling that everything is happening in Florida right now. Everybody's going to Florida. They're moving to Florida. Some of this has to do with the energy that Governor DeSantis has brought to things. Some of this has to do with the fact that Donald Trump moved here essentially as well. But in terms of the Republican world, the energy coming out of Florida is just incredible right now.
Yeah, I mean, so as Floridians, we love it, we feel it, but it is almost foreign for us because for so many election cycles, at least the dialogue is, oh, Florida's elections are the time. Right. Now we got it right, and we got the freedom conversation right. So that's resonating in D.C. and and many travels afar that you
Oh,
experience, Byron?
absolutely. Instead of having a meeting in Woodley Park in D.C., they'll have it in Orlando. I mean, there's a lot of that going on right now. And you see organizations that meet regularly in Washington or are based in Washington are holding meetings in Florida.
Yeah, if there was one or two either policies or ideas that Florida is doing, do you have a favorite, Byron, that you see from your
Well, I
lens?
mean, what we saw in the whole COVID experience was Florida taking the lead in opposing mandates. Now, I live in Washington, D.C. There's a mask mandate as we speak. I put one on when I go into a place where it's required just for social reasons. I don't really think it does any good, but everybody would get upset if I didn't, and I'm not a crusader on that, so I just do it. But I think what you saw in Florida is a move against mandates, not voluntary wearing of masks. And believe me, in Bethesda, Maryland, a lot of people would voluntarily wear them for a long, long time, but against mandates. And I think that has been contagious, and I think DeSantis leadership and Republican leadership has been very important in that.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's been a lot of fun to live in this state. While we were free Florida, it quickly became a brand.
Yeah.
But we were doing free Florida long before COVID. So Bob, let's go back to you. What are the policies you guys are recommending to the legislature? What are you guys working on right now?
Well, we were intimately involved with the governor, working with him to keep the economy open and to keep schools open. And I think that has turned out to be prescient in so many different ways in doing that. We're now focused on protecting and promoting those policies that make Florida the free state of Florida. So school choice and education reform, taking on the cancel culture directly via school choice, or the protection of the First Amendment and free speech on college campuses. That's been a big issue for us. The third big issue we've been working on, Brad, is November of 2020, the night of the election, Florida knew by midnight who had won every single race up and down the ballot. You go back 20 years to Bush v. Gore and how humiliating that was for the state of Florida. Well, after that election, a number of states said, how did you do it? How did you fix your election? How did you fix your elections? And so we've been working actually in other states to help them fix their election issues, and it's been really, really helpful.
So I mean, you think about elections, and they're really on the tip of everybody's mind. What's going to happen at the congressional level, for sure, but the state level, redistricting, whatnot. Byron, what do you see as a potential, or how do you read or handicap, if you will, the upcoming elections?
Well, I pretty much agree with most people about the prospect for a big Republican victory in the midterms, especially in the House. I'm not really prepared to say that much about the Senate because it really could go either way. But in the House, a president's job approval rating is a critical predictor and component of how his party's going to do in the midterms. And according to Gallup, presidents who've had job approval ratings above 50% lose about 14 seats in midterms. They lose enough for Republicans to win right there, but if they're below 50%, they lose an average of 37 seats. And this is going back decades and decades. History is pointing us toward a Republican win. And not just history, but circumstances too, the public's frustration over inflation, the frustration, the feeling that Joe Biden is perhaps not up to the job. Everything seems to be pointing to a Republican victory. One caution, I would say, obviously in January of 2020, Donald Trump looked very good, and I don't think any of us would have said, I think the next 2 years will be dominated by a worldwide pandemic. So you can't tell. Unexpected things happen, but right now it looks very strong for Republicans.
Well, from your lips to God's ears, we hope, and I can say that here amongst friends. Bob, in our closing time here, when the viewers, the legislators see this piece, what would you hope they take away from the work that James Madison is doing in Florida and really, frankly, across the country?
Well, what I think is amazing is that, and I'm going to talk about this tonight, is that Florida has had roughly a 30-year history going back to Jeb Bush of courageous movement conservatism. To us at the James Madison Institute, that's very different than Republican Party politics. We believe in courageous conservative movement policies. And we've gone back to Jeb Bush doing that for the last 30 years, and the returns are in. I mean, we know how this plays out. It works, and we see it. We have 800 people moving here a day. We have, the world's 16th largest economy that continues to grow.
Trillion-dollar economy.
Trillion-dollar economy. I mean, it continues. We have an internal saying at JMI that freedom works every time it's tried, and we have a 30-year track record of that happening here. So I would just encourage legislators, elected officials, to continue with courageous conservative leadership.
Bob, thanks so much for your leadership in this space. Thanks for coming on Fight TV. Byron, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. Thanks for your thought leadership nationally and on Fox and at the the Examiner. And thanks for working with JMI. Appreciate you.
Thank you. They're starting to play the music.
That's
Thanks
right.
very
I guess
much.
that's our outro, right? That's all the time we have for this episode of Fight TV. For more great interviews like this one, make sure you hit us up on our social media feed. And for now, thanks for tuning in.